Costco is a fairly interesting company. They have had chargers, apparently level 2s, at some of their locations all the way back as far as the 90s. Well, now they've got some other stuff going on. They've got some partnerships with a variety of companies. Just about a year ago, they announced a partnership with Electrify America. Who knows, maybe that's working. But they are brand agnostic. They will work with whoever's good, available, and maybe even the best. Maybe even some of these little guys you see here that are built by a company called Electric Era. How hard is it to make a good charger? It's not rocket science. Don't worry, that joke will come back in just a minute. But it turns out Electric Era, I got the CEO right here. Quincy is going to talk to us, tell us all about it. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futurasa. Quincy, what in the heck is going on here? What do we got?
We got charging stations.
Got a charging station. Let's
We
plug
have
it in and see what happens.
Specifically 3 charging stations, all 200 kW port rated, and very importantly, a battery system. We can talk about that in a second. But let's get charging.
And these are duals, so that's 6 handles.
That's correct. Yeah, so 6 handles, 6 parking stalls, and
That's already a NACS plug.
oh yeah, we're actually rolling these out at a ton of our customer charging stations already. I think we're going to be live on maybe 50% of our fleet already, or perhaps by the middle of the year. But it's we found it to be pretty important. A lot of us drive Tesla, so we care about NACS.
There it goes. And because it's Costco, it's 29 cents.
Very affordable pricing.
At this
Costco's obviously
location,
famous
at
for
this
that.
hour,
Mhm.
it can change, but, and I'm sure the price is available online.
Mhm.
So here's the thing, public chargers have a pretty spotty reputation for reliability. It's not rocket science.
Mhm.
Quick question, what'd you do before founding Electric Era?
I was at SpaceX for 7 years as a mechanical engineer. So I worked on the Dragon spacecraft program, the Falcon 9 rocket, and then in my last role there, I was in charge of the ground station antenna program for SpaceX Starlink. So actually a very similar role where I was building antennas all over the world in multiple continents that were, tracking satellites and transmitting data to them. In 2020, I left Starlink specifically and founded Electric Era and wanted to bring those same kind of advanced technologies to the EV charging industry.
Now with electric charging, would you say that you have to deal with a variety of networks, a variety of utilities, a variety of kind of everything, top to bottom, just like you did at SpaceX, in getting ground stations in different locations with different rules and permitting and all that?
Yeah, our team is quite equipped to do exactly that because of the experiences we had at Starlink, where we were, in some cases talking to foreign governments trying to get permits to install ground station antennas. Obviously, it's a little bit easier in America to do that when you speak the same language, but that's one of the value adds we bring to the customer is we help them with construction, we help them with permitting, we help them with utility interconnection, utility tariffs, and also the operations of the station. So our software runs every single one of our charging stations, providing like a very, very high level of reliability and performance for our customers.
So, and you have other SpaceX alum on staff?
That's correct. Yeah. So our CTO, I worked actually with at SpaceX for quite a long time, and he was there for 10 years. Our VP of software, same thing, worked with him very closely for about 2 to 3 years when we were both at SpaceX, and he was there for about 7 years. And we actually have a new hire starting on Monday who was in charge of all of Starlink production. They were responsible for the entire production and supply chain for the entire organization and built 45 satellites a week for about 2 years. So they're a seasoned veteran. And we have a couple of other staff members as well that work with us there. But the kind of common denominator in all that, of course, is a technology focus first in our products and repurposing some of the advanced engineering strategies and software design approaches that we first learned at SpaceX into the EV charging world.
So for anyone who's followed, the United Launch Alliance fiasco, they can see that that's a company that's very big, very well funded, and somehow still is constantly having problems. SpaceX appears to be agile, nimble, very fast, and still successful. What kind of lessons did you learn there that you carried forward?
I think, I would say like the more philosophical in nature answer to that question is vertical integration. So we have end-to-end integration across all the hardware and all the software at every single one of our charging stations. That's actually a specific requirement of ours when we select a new vendor that provides componentry for our charging stations, is that we can control every aspect of that piece of hardware. So a good example of that is our payment terminal. We have a payment software that oversees and triages any sort of issues that arise when the payment transaction is authenticating and going through its process. The same is true for our customer charge. For the charger we use, we work with SK Signet chargers, and we control the entire screen and the power flow process and the charging initiation process, vehicle interoperability. We talked about the battery earlier. We also do the same thing for the battery. So behind us is our energy storage system. We actually manufacture this in Seattle. You came to our warehouse where we met. You saw how that whole process works. So we pull together various different components and actually build this whole thing up in our factory in Seattle. And it's very important for us that we control the inverter, we control the computer inside of our that basically operates the whole charging station, and the power flows in and out of the battery. Finally, the grid connection. Of course, we have to basically adjudicate when we're discharging or charging from the grid versus not charging from the grid. So all of this is under the Electric Era software wrapper. We control all of it, and actually we control it in real time, issuing commands at about 20 milliseconds.
So the thing I learned that I thought was pretty fascinating at the tour that I got to do last week of your facility, thank you for having us, was how much of it is all in-house. From the batteries are assembled and tested right there into these big devices in a very handy fireproof box, so to speak. And everything is. The problem that you get with someone like Ford is when they need to make a change to their software, they don't have access to all of the components, and some of the suppliers have locked them out of making changes to the firmware in their equipment.
Yep, exactly.
And so that's something you've avoided.
Yeah, so we have because we have deep software control, and because we actually pull together the whole station design, we can be agile with our vendors. And if somebody's unwilling to give a software control or won't work with us to improve the state of the software, we're able to switch vendors out. Alternatively, if we want, we can also go down into our own software and make changes to fix things as we see them in the field. We're, as a company, very data rich because we have that end-to-end technology integration. What does that mean? It means basically we can see immediately if there is an issue, and we can go in and look at the telemetry, figure out why it failed. And if necessary, we can go and write new software and update our charging stations with an OTA, an over-the-air update, just like your Tesla does, to fix it so that the next driver that comes has a great experience. That makes our product improve very quickly. And actually, famously, we improved our charging session reliability from the middle of 2024, where it was at about 60%, all the way up to about 93%. So that means if you plug in, 93% of the time it works immediately at an Electric Era charging station. Most of the industry is still at around 50%.
Is it really?
It's not, it's pretty bad. Most of the charging companies don't actually publish that information, charging session reliability. They publish what's called uptime. That's a different, means of assessing station reliability, but charging session reliability is actually more important than uptime, because in order to have high reliability sessions, you need a station that's also online. So our uptime is actually 98.5% per port. Basically, our stations are never down. You never see our station down because we know when they go down, and we send a technician out to fix it, or, recycle the station or push new software. So they're always operational. And then when you plug in, they work 93% of the time, every time.
And this is uniquely app-free.
Yep. Probably the most important thing that we do.
That is something that I see a lot of complaints about, is if you drive a Bolt or a Leaf or whatever it is you may have, or an REI, I guess, is a better example. Good luck finding a Leaf charger.
Correct.
But is that I don't want 50 apps, and I've had problems using apps myself. This is just drive up, pay, and go.
Correct. Yeah. Because we control the software that runs our payment terminal, we were able to do app-free tap-to-pay payments. So I don't know if you caught it earlier, but I just tapped my phone, and the session got on its way. So that's one of the things, honestly, that we see drivers on leaving plug share reviews comment on the most. They just love that it's no apps and a seamless starting process, and also that it starts pretty quickly. It takes about maybe 20 seconds for the power to start flowing. Drivers also love that, our charging stations are next to retail amenities and offerings. And, what better place to charge a car than going on a Costco run or going on a grocery store run, or maybe just swinging through a convenience store and grabbing a deli sandwich. Drivers love that because it takes a little longer and we want things to consume.
Well, I hope we do get a chance to see more and more of these at places like Costco, because this is, if you're going to be here anyway, you might as well do it. Mm-hmm. At this location, it doesn't appear that they're charging idle fees. So on this one, yeah, that's fantastic. It's going really well. It doesn't show up super well on the camera, I bet. Maybe now a little bit, but all of that is interesting. So some key differences being the tap to pay, the fact that it's all vertically integrated as much as possible in-house. And the neat thing is, I know there are questions that you guys have, but we're going to be addressing those in a second video coming up in a few days, where we're going to talk about all of the challenges at each of the steps that can make chargers unreliable and how to address it. And we're going to do that while trying to throw as little shade as possible. No guarantees. What did we miss? What do we misunderstand? Check out Electric Era. They've got a link in the description here. Quincy has been very gracious with his time. We appreciate that. Everybody else, like, subscribe, do what you do. Stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots when we come back for the thrilling conclusion.